Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to start reading through this book, Art That Changed the World. This book was donated to my channel by Joseph M. Thank you so much, Joseph, for this kind gift. He says he got it for my birthday, which is very sweet, which is great because I love art, you guys. I adore art. Anyway, if you would like to donate a book to my channel, I have my Amazon wishlist down in the description box, and I'll give you a shout out if you so wish when I read your book on my channel. So let's just dive right in. We're going to start off at the very, very beginnings of art with not this, but prehistoric art. Let's read about cave paintings. When the cave paintings at Lascaux were revealed to the public in 1948, the overriding reaction was astonishment. How could primitive people with so few resources have produced pictures with such sophistication? With each new discovery, this sense of wonder has returned. In the 1990s, the age of the oldest painted cave was pushed back to around 30,000 BCE, and there is every likelihood that in the future this boundary may go back even further. Meanwhile, scientific advances like radiocarbon dating, accelerator mass spectrometry, and DNA analysis are providing an increasingly detailed understanding of both the paintings and their archaeological settings. The sheer number of surviving decorated caves also continues to grow. At present, more than 360 have been recorded in Western Europe alone. Comparable sites have also been found in many other parts of the world, confirming that cave art was a truly global phenomenon. There's a little picture up here of Lascaux. Can you see the bowls up on the ceiling there? Some of the rocks too. It's a neat place. Let's read about some context about artists of the Ice Age. Cave paintings in Europe were produced by hunter-gatherer communities in the later stages of the Ice Age. When the paintings were first studied, it was assumed that the images simply reflected the everyday lives of these people. It soon became clear, however, that many of these caves were not normally inhabited, and in addition that the paintings were executed in places where they could not be seen. As a result, it was suggested that some caves were sanctuaries and that the act of painting served some ritual purpose. For many years, the most popular theory was that the paintings were associated with hunting magic. By depicting large, healthy creatures, their ideal food source, the cavemen were hoping to ensure the future supply of these animals for their hunters. Gradually, though, as more paintings were discovered, a flaw in this theory became apparent. The study of food deposits showed that in many cases the cave artists were not portraying the beasts they actually ate. At Lascaux, for instance, 90% of the food remains were reindeer bones, but this animal was depicted only once. In recent years, new theories have proliferated. Some scholars have argued that individual animals should not be viewed in isolation. They believe that it is more helpful to look at the entire panel, including its various signs like hands, arrows, and grids. The hypotheses arising from the Chinese horse illustrate this approach, and we'll look at that at the end of this section. There is also great interest in the links with shamanism. In the 19th and 20th centuries, European anthropologists gained important insights into the rock art of southern Africa by studying the shamanistic practices of local bushmen. Since then, scholars have explored parallels with European cave painting. Let's look at the timeline, the key events in rock art, starting at circa 38,000 BCE, start of the Upper Paleolithic period, the final phase of the Paleolithic Age. It is subdivided into tool-making phases known as the industries. Circa 34,000 BCE. The Aurignacian industry, named after a site in Aurignac, emerges in France. The earliest cave paintings are produced. Circa 28,000 to 20,000 BCE. The time of the Gravettian industry, named after a site at La Gravette in the Dordogne area of France. The Venus figurines date from this period. Circa 16,000 to 10,000 BCE, the closing phase of the Upper Paleolithic era is the Magdalenian industry, named after the site of La Madeleine in France. The finest cave paintings are created during this era. 13,000 to 8,500 BCE, the late glacial period when the ice sheets gradually began their retreat. And circa 8,000 to 3,000 BCE, the Neolithic wet phase, a milder period when Saharan North Africa is habitable. There's a picture down here of a glacier kind of retreating. Don't think it says where this glacier is, but a good idea of pretty much what the landscape looked like for our very early ancestors when they were making cave paintings. Let's read this page. Beginnings, a shocking discovery. In December 1994, 3 spelunkers were exploring a cave in the Ardèche Valley in France when they came across a series of painted chambers. After radiocarbon tests were carried out, archaeologists were astonished to discover that the paintings were far older than other known examples. The earliest section dates to around 30,000 BCE, while a second period of habitation dates from around 25,000 BCE. The cave has been named after one of the speleologists, Jean-Marie Chauvet, while his companions, Eliette Brunel and Christian Hilaire, have given their names to individual chambers. The discovery of the Chauvet cave made experts revise their views on the Aurignacian period and on the nature and purpose of cave painting itself. The animals depicted are different from those in later caves. Alongside the usual herbivores, there are images of dangerous creatures that were rarely pursued: bears, lions, and woolly rhinos. This undermined the theory that cave paintings were designed solely for hunting rituals. Let's look at some of the artistic influences of cave paintings. Historians have long been skeptical of the idea that cave paintings are straightforward reflections of the daily life of the hunter-gatherer. As more and more images have become available for study, they have analyzed every symbol and every unusual pose for hints about their purpose. Increasingly, it seems likely that the cave artists were influenced by their ritual practices and beliefs. Painted symbols are found in many caves. Hands are particularly common, taking the form of handprints, palm prints, or stenciled outlines. Often they are combined with an animal image. In this case, the charcoal line to the left is part of a mammoth, right here. This is in Chauvet, in France. I always kind of figured the handprints were like signatures on the art, right? Red ochre is one of the most common pigments found in cave painting. It also appears to have had a deeper symbolic significance. It was daubed on cold figurines, as well as on the bodies of the dead and their grave goods. Shamanistic practices may be linked with many of the cave paintings. This strange scene, unparalleled in Paleolithic art, shows a birdman, who may be dead or in a trance, lying next to a bird stick that may be either a spear thrower or a ritual implement. This is also in Lascaux, apparently. Sanctuary called the Shaft of Lascaux in Montignac. Anyway, unusual poses in the animal paintings have taxed the ingenuity of archaeologists. The favored theory is that this bison is rolling in its urine in order to create territorial markings. However, it has also been interpreted as dying, sleeping, or giving birth. And this is in Spain, it says, in Altamira. Speaking of, we're going to look at a particular painting in the Altamira cave in Spain, which is called Bison. Let's take a look at it first. Big old bright red bison. Very cool. The extraordinary paintings at Altamira were discovered in 1879, and information about them was first published in 1880. However, more than 20 years passed before they were generally accepted as genuine examples of Paleolithic art. Initially, experts had dismissed Altamira as an elaborate modern forgery, arguing that the colors were too vivid and the techniques too sophisticated for such an early date. Their amazement is understandable. This remarkable bison was outlined in black and then colored in. Shading was achieved by scraping away small areas of paint, and engraved lines were added at key points. The eyes, the horns, and the hooves to sharpen the detail. That's really cool. They made an outline and then colored within the lines. It's cool. Let's read about Henri Boillot. A pioneering figure in the study of the Paleolithic era, Henri Boillot was ordained as a priest but never took up his duties. Instead, he devoted himself to recording and analyzing the latest discoveries in cave art. He visited sites throughout Europe, Africa, and China, and his encyclopedic knowledge on the subject enabled him to calculate a more accurate chronology for the Paleolithic age. Now let's look at a more in-depth timeline of these incredible works. It is just over a century since historians accepted the idea that cave paintings dated back to the Upper Paleolithic era. The earliest European examples appear to date from around 30,000 BCE. Oh, can you see? There you go. However, as new discoveries are made and dating techniques become more sophisticated, this situation may change. Many of the European paintings were produced inside deep, barely accessible caves, which has aided their survival. Similar images have been found in Africa and Australia, where the practice of creating them continued for far longer. Let's look at this little box first down here. It's about the replica caves. Most cave paintings survived because they were preserved in a stable microclimate, but this changed as tourists flocked to view them. In the 1950s, officials at Lascaux noticed that algae and calcite crystals were forming on the walls and the paintings were beginning to fade. The cave was closed in 1963 and a replica, Lascaux II, was created for visitors in a nearby concrete bunker. Yeah, whoever named that A+, that's what I would call it, Lascaux II. So starting off in 30,000 BCE, Neanderthals went extinct. The remains of the last Neanderthals date from circa 30,000 BCE. They have dominated the Middle Paleolithic age, but are now replaced by modern humans. Here we can see Megaceros deer running, circa 30,000 BCE in Chauvet Cave in Ardèche, France. The Megaceros, Megaceros or Megaceros, like a rhinoceros, was a giant deer which is now extinct. It did not return to southern Europe after the late glacial period, and paintings of it are only found in very old caves such as Chauvet and Clugnac. Moving on to, about here we have the Venus figurines. You can see the most famous one right here. A number of small Venus sculptures date from circa 26,000 BCE. Made from stone or mammoth tusks, the women are often obese with few facial features and complex hair arrangements. The most famous examples are from Willendorf in Austria and Lespuig and Blassepuy in France. And here is the Venus of Willendorf, circa 25,000 BCE. It's currently in the Naturhistorisches Museum in Vienna, Austria. Discovered in 1908, this is the most famous of the Venus figurines excavated from Paleolithic sites across Europe. It was found at Willendorf in Austria, but must have originated elsewhere, since its material, which is oolitic limestone, was not locally available. Images of similar figures were produced, either as paintings or engravings, in prehistoric caves. This is kind of like bigger than what it actually is. It's like this big. Let's go forward in the timeline to the Candamo Cave. The oldest cave paintings in Spain may have been produced circa 23,000 BCE at La Peña de Cardamo. These include images of bison, bulls, and aurochs, which were wild cattle. Moving on in the timeline, we look at this piece. It's the panel of spotted horses, circa 26,000 to 20,000 BCE. It is at Pechmerle Cave in Lot, France. Paleolithic artists like to exploit the contours of the surfaces that they were working on. Here the painted heads are tiny, but the animal to the right seems more convincing because the adjacent rock is shaped like the horse's head. In 2011, scientists found DNA evidence to suggest spotted horses like these actually existed. Yeah, they really goofed on this head right here. Yeah, they followed the shape of the rock here. Made it look like a horse. That's cool. Moving on to this piece, this is a great auk, circa 25,000 to 17,000 BCE. It's at Coquer Cave near Marseille, France. The paintings in this extraordinary cave were discovered in 1991 by Henri Coquer, the manager of a diving center, a vital factor since the entrance to the site is now underwater. The depictions of marine creatures include great auks, monk seals, and octopuses. Are they extinct? I feel like an auk is a familiar thing, kind of like a big ol' seabird, I guess. I'm not sure. Here, at 15,000 BCE, we have this piece, Black Cow, circa 15,000 to 13,000 BCE, and it's in the Lascaux Cave near Montignac, France. This superb painting was executed in a long, narrow passage called the nave. It was superimposed on a frieze of around 20 horses, running in the opposite direction. Henri Boyer noted the twisted perspective of this type of image, with the body shown in profile, but some details, such as the hooves and horns, pictured frontally. Interesting. That is a fat horse. Wow, he's chonky, isn't he? Further in the timeline, 50,000 BCE, we have the Bradshaw Aboriginal painting, which is absolutely stunning. This is circa 15,000 BCE. It's at Mount Elizabeth Station in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. Bradshaw figures take their name from Joseph Bradshaw, the settler who first recorded them in 1891. These rock paintings have been exposed to the elements, but their colors have remained fresh because they are coated in a film of fungi and bacteria. We also have another chonky friend, bison, circa 11,500 BCE. This is in Nio Cave near Tarascon-sur-Ariège in France. At Nio, most of the animal paintings were executed in a large domed chamber called the Salon Noir. Chemical tests have shown that the paint was made from manganese dioxide, coupled with biotite and feldspar. Wow, fancy. El Castillo. According to radiocarbon tests, several paintings of bison are produced at the Spanish cave of El Castillo, circa 13,500 BCE. In all, around 250 animal images are present there. Oh, sorry, then we have bison. My bad. Circa 11,000 BCE. By circa 11,000 BCE, the Weichsel glaciation, one of the final phases of the Great Ice Age, is drawing to a close in northern Europe. Let's see what's next. It looks like it is this one. Human figures and mouflon. Do you see the mouflon? This is circa 4,500 BCE. It's found in Tan Zumatak in Tassili Niger Plateau in Algeria. It's really beautiful. Look at these people. Interesting. The rock paintings at Tassili Niger were produced before the Sahara became a desert. This example dates from the early Roundhead phase, when figures were depicted with few facial features. The painting shows the herdsmen tending mouflons, which are large horned sheep. Next we have the ceremonial cow. I think this is one of my favorite rock arts in Hargeisa. It's just so distinct. Anyway, circa 3000 BCE, it's in Lascaux near Hargeisa, Somalia. The paintings in the rock shelters of Lascaux are a reminder of a time when this arid part of Africa was lush and fertile, with wild cattle roaming free. Here, a long-horned cow, portrayed as a divine spirit, is worshipped by a herdsman. I really like the Hargeisa rocks. They're so cool. Next, we have the Camurus ewer, I think, circa 19,000 BCE. It's in the National Archaeological Museum in Heraklion in Crete. This ewer, a large jug, was made by the Minoans on Crete, one of the first European peoples to make use of a potter's wheel. This example was found at the Palace of Faustus but most wares of this kind were excavated at Comaris itself, a cave sanctuary on Mount Ida. And we have some lands. Let me move pencil real quick out the way. There we go. Lands. Circa 1500 BCE, this is found in the Game Pass shelter of Drakensberg, South Africa. The paintings at Game Pass shelter provided archaeologists with the clearest evidence of the links between rock art and shamanism. The lands, which are large antelopes, were at the heart of ritual ceremonies because shamans thought the animals' spiritual potency would enable them to enter a trance state. Very beautiful. I think we were looking at these when I was covering South Africa because, was it during South Africa? I think so. Just because the hues and tones, it's so interesting. Look at the people running around. Let's read this little box right here about masks and shamanism. This imposing figure with massive biceps and horns. Look at the guns on this guy. Wow. Very impressive. And his horns. This imposing figure with massive biceps and horns has been nicknamed the Great God of Safar. Roundhead worshippers appear to kneel before him. Some scholars regard the horns and mask as evidence of shamanistic practices among the Saharan peoples. In addition, they view some of the stranger scenes depicted at Safar as visions brought on during trances, or alternately by hallucinogenic substances used during the rituals. Yeah, that guy is jacked, huh? Lastly, we're going to look at a very famous horse drawing at Lascaux. It's called the Chinese horse, which you will find out why. The animal paintings at Lascaux are supreme examples of Paleolithic art. One scholar has described the site as the Sistine Chapel of prehistory, referring not just to the beauty of the paintings, but also to the difficult conditions under which they were produced, high up on ceilings or in dark recesses. The Chinese horse is situated in the axial gallery, one of the most richly decorated sections. It was dubbed Chinese because it reminded some commentators of Song Dynasty paintings, and the closest modern-day type of horse does indeed come from that part of the world. This is the Przewalski species from Mongolia, which, like the Chinese horse, has a small head and a bulky body. That combination has prompted a few unflattering comments. Leading archaeologists describe the Lascaux horses as these basset hound animals, all belly. It is kind of basset hound looking, isn't it? All belly. The outline of the animal was painted with a brush, while the main areas of color were sprayed on, either from the mouth or through a hollow bone serving as a tube. The signs surrounding the horse have been the subject of much debate. Some have linked these to the theories about hunting magic, interpreting the diagonal markings as weapons and the grid-like symbol as a net. For others, the details are more descriptive. The lines are ferns or grasses, bending as the horse gallops through them, while the enlarged contours simply represent the animal's thick winter coat. I don't know, it does kind of look like grass as he goes clop, clop, clop. And then here's the either like weird grid net thing up here. Who knows what it was for? It could have been literally anything. Most likely never ever know, but very gorgeous work there. And they spray painted it with their mouth. Isn't that something? Wow. Anyway, that will be it for tonight. Isn't this an interesting book? Next, we're going to look at Egyptian art, which is great because this book is pretty Eurocentric. Everything after the Egyptian chapter is all art from Europe. But, you know, it is fantastic art, so nothing wrong with that. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night. Good night.